All right, we'll give it 5 more minutes, and then we'll get started. All right, we can go ahead and get started. Uh, First of all, welcome everybody. This is our second fall 2020 info session for the Linux SysAdmin Decal. If you didn't know that already, we had one earlier this week on Tuesday at the same time. So if you're here, great. That's the whole reason why we have two of them. And this meeting is being recorded. So we know that we had last time on Tuesday, people were having single sign-on issues to get into Zoom and into this meeting. So if any of your friends get locked out of this info session, tell them it's okay. We're going to record this all, so there really shouldn't be any issues when it comes to finding out the information that we're going to be talking about today. But yeah, you ready, Ben? Let's jump into it. All right, great. So to start us off, first we're gonna introduce ourselves. Me and Ben, we are the head lecturers, our head facilitators actually for this decal, meaning that all the administrative work that goes on behind the scenes and the people that you guys should contact in regarding like enrollment, class times, stuff about the class, problems that you have individually, anything administratively related, is probably going to end up coming to us. So a little bit about ourselves. Ben, you want to go first?
All right. Y'all can hear me all right?
Yeah, loud and clear.
All right, cool. Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Ben. I'm one of the head facilitators, and I'm currently a sophomore CS Psych major. If you're taking CS 61A or 61B right now, you might see me around. I do a bit of teaching. So yeah, and yeah, so in my free time, when I do have that luxury, I like to make games. That's one thing that I do. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And over to Bernard.
Yeah, I'm an old senior at this point. I was a head facilitator for this course a year ago when it was offered. I'm taking some pretty interesting courses right now, and just not doing that much in digital classes. Playing a lot of video games. That's really about it. Oh, thanks. Yeah, this avatar, that was like a side project of mine. Was actually writing code to do stuff like this, which is pretty sick. Check me out on GitHub. Yeah, I'm joking. All right, so moving on from that, you guys have probably seen the penguin that's like on these slides and on the advertisements for the decal, and you probably know about the OCF, even if you have just heard about the decal, most likely because ever since it's been offered, we've always offered it as a physical class within our lab space. Sadly, we won't be presenting our lectures live in the lab this semester, but the OCF still is the driving force behind this decal. All the resources and all of the lectures, all of the lab content were all created by all of us. And that might be one part of the OCF that you may not know about. If you guys have been in the OCF before like this digital semester, you guys would know that we do a lot of free printing for students. That's like one of the main things we're known for. But we do a lot of like technical resources and free computing services for students on campus as well, with servers or desktops that are there, and a lot of the RSOs on campus, a lot of the clubs host all their websites with us, and that's how they get the .berkeley.edu domain as well. The XCF is a small branch kind of the OCF that helped out in originally creating the resources for this course, so we have to thank them as well. Yeah. So you may know a little bit about this decal already if you've already seen our website or read some of the descriptions. But I think it's very important at the very start for us to really make clear what this decal is actually about. So yes, it's about Linux. That's as you can probably tell from the title. But the idea here in this course is that there are two tracks that any one of you guys can take, one being the beginner track and one being the advanced track. So the beginner track is meant to take people who really have no previous experience to GNU or Linux and take them through kind of an introductory stroll through all the things that you might find useful when interacting with Linux, and go through a lot of concepts that are important just to sysadmins and people interested about how systems work. On the other hand, for people that really have touched this stuff before, we really hope to dive deeper into it and give you guys the sort of like questions and resources to play around with this stuff more than maybe you've had the excuses to do so in the past. Maybe you've never had an excuse to install Arch Linux from scratch. Well, we're going to force you to do that um, as part of the labs. But really, at a high level, all the stuff that we're going to go into isn't meant to be too much of a super deep dive. We're really covering just a lot of topics in this course. And the ultimate goal is really to get you guys all very comfortable with these things so that, this decal and the knowledge that you're going to get is going to be a good starting point from going into a career into this sort of stuff, or just helping you out when working with servers or Linux, or really just a good way to explore a lot of this content without, feeling alone. So I also already covered some of this, but the decal also has some things that it very much is not. So this decal is definitely not any of the courses that more in depth cover the things that we talk about in this course. These things may include things that you may have, classes that you may have heard of, like CS 162, operating systems, 168, networking, security, 161, even like I guess now it's retired, the old bash scripting course that used to be here, CS9E or something like that. We don't focus entirely on that as either, even though that is one part of our course. So I'd recommend if you're really interested in one of these specific topics, go take one of those courses. They're definitely all very great. But we're definitely not going to dive nearly as deep in any of these things. And even on the advanced track, it's really just going to be what are the things that you can learn that are applicable about these items rather than teaching you everything from front to back. And you can extrapolate from that and say, okay, well, we're definitely not really going to teach you how to program, even though you are going to do a little bit of programming in this course. We're not going to teach you anything crazy about the Linux kernel or stuff like that. Even though you really, after taking this course, you should be able to know where to look to find the resources to learn more about these things. And lastly, Ben and I are both OCF staff, but we didn't join OCF staff already having known everything in this decal either. So if you're interested about any of this stuff, a lot of the stuff that is involved in this course end up being critical skills and cool things that OCF staff end up having to work with. So if you are interested in going down that path and working and hanging out with people who are interested in this sort of stuff, I'd recommend joining the OCF. Go ahead and check us out. But really, the decal isn't related in any sort of way. We just really help teach it and create all the resources. All right, so is this decal for you? This is a very important question to ask all of yourselves, mainly because of the fact that our supply and demand for this course has never exactly been even. Every year we get a lot of people who are interested in taking this course, but we only have so many enrollment codes to give out. Even now that we're all digital and we're trying to move our resources to be even more open and accessible to everybody, there's still only so many units we can hand out from enrollment codes. So what I want all of you guys to ask yourselves is, are you really interested in this sort of stuff? Are you going to drop the course? Are you possibly going to drop the course down the line if something happens? If you really want these units, can you get them somewhere else? But really, yeah, are you interested about this sort of stuff? And do you want to actually put the stuff you're going to learn in this course to use? And as you'll see later on, these questions, you don't really got to tell me the answer. You'll have to fill out Lab 0, which will ask you a lot of these questions, and you're going to have to go through this stuff yourself, which will serve as your application in the course. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So one of the most common questions we get from people who are signing up for the course is, all right, which track should I actually pick? And I've already sort of hinted at the fact that there's these two tracks, but these tracks are pretty much up to you to decide which one you're going to take. And we really divide this course evenly as far as enrollment codes go. Well, we try as much as possible to have an even beginner and advanced class split. And I think Ben now, I'll hand it off to him. He'll explain sort of how you guys should choose between the two tracks and maybe what the subtle differences of the two are. So take it away, Ben.
All right. So I wanted to talk a little bit about going into more specifics about some of the topics that we're actually going to be covering in both of these tracks. And so maybe you can take a look at these lists and see which one you find interesting. And if you're kind of intimidated by some of the stuff in the advanced track, then maybe the beginner track will be a nice intro into all of this stuff. And so as Bernard was saying earlier, you really don't need any experience to get started in the beginner track. So this is a very flyby introduction into all of these concepts like shell scripting. Again, we're not a shell scripting class, but we will teach you all the basics that you need so that you can do some cool things, automate some basic tasks in Linux, so that you don't need to hit a whole bunch of keys over and over again, like copy paste 10,000 times. So that's a nice skill to have. And in addition to that, we'll be going over some things about networking. So just like stuff about IP addresses, how you can make your computer interact with other computers over the internet. We'll be talking about process management, so services and things like that. If you wondered how all of the computers, all the programs on your computer run and how to set those up yourself, then that's something that we'll be touching upon. Another thing is version control, and this is something that's extremely widely used in computer science and software and sysadmin space. So if you want to make sure that your code doesn't self-destruct itself if your computer dies or something, you want to make sure that you keep a good record of all of the different changes that you make to your projects. And maybe you heard of Git, but you're not exactly sure what it is. Then we'll go over all of that. We'll be talking some basic about security, how to keep all of your files and stuff safe, even especially if you're sending sensitive information like passwords over the internet. How do we make sure that people can't intercept those? Distributions and package management. So you might have heard that there's a lot of different flavors of Linux. So like there's Ubuntu, like there's Debian, Arch Linux, Fedora, all these different versions of Linux. And we'll be talking about the differences so that if you were going to install Linux for yourself or use it, then you'll have a better idea about which one is best for you. Um, and finally, we'll be talking about containers, so like Docker, how to make your computer do a whole bunch of things like basically multitask and make it extra useful. Okay, moving on to the advanced track. So one thing I do want to emphasize about this is that um, in the advanced track, we'll be covering mostly all of the same topics that we cover in beginner. I will just cover it faster, and then we'll also add in some more cool things on top of it. So if you already had prior experience, maybe you've already been familiar with all the stuff that I've talked about in the beginner track, then we'll give you a quick, nice refresher to all of that stuff, plus add on all of this new stuff that maybe you haven't heard of before, or you haven't had the chance to work with yet. So for example, as Bernard said earlier, you'll have the opportunity to install Arch Linux from scratch. So just from a blank terminal and ISO file to having a full system ready to use. We'll also be talking about some Linux-specific stuff like systemd. We'll be talking about how to make your own Docker containers again, how to make your own Debian packages. We'll be talking about like configuration tools like Puppet. So one of the labs that I really liked in the advanced track is that you'll get the chance to pre-configure your own Minecraft server. So you can figure out how all of that works so that you can have everything set up and ready to go. And yeah, so that's one technology that we use in the OCF a lot because if you've been to the lab and you've seen all of the computers, we have like 30-ish of them. All of them run the same software. And if we wanted to update one of them, it would be super tedious if we needed to like do it on all 30 of them. So what we do instead is we just have a script that automatically updates all the computers and synchronizes them so that it's all good. And you'll be learning how to do that for yourself. So yeah, just a few things that we'll be doing in the advanced track. Um, yes, okay, so yeah, just a little bit more information, just in case you're still not exactly sure. A lot of you might think that you fall kind of in the middle, like you had a little bit experience, but you're not too sure that you can handle the advanced track. Well, so maybe we can help you try to decide that here. So again, as I said a few times already, a beginner assumes that you don't have any experience or you have very little experience working with Linux and sysadmin and servers in general. So, and advanced assumes that you at least heard of some of these things. But if you've heard of them and even if you don't have that much experience, if you're in for a challenge, it's definitely doable technically without any prior experience. It'll just be kind of fast. So if one of these things on the list applies to you, like you've used Linux before, you've installed stuff from a package manager, which is not the App Store. So like if you recognize some of those commands, maybe you used them before, maybe you just recognize what they do or you've seen them before. maybe you've written scripts of some sort. Maybe you've fiddled around with IP addresses and stuff like that. Then advanced is definitely for you. And if you're not sure, then you can feel free to take a look at the archives. It's just on the website. So if you go to decal.ocf.io and you click on the archive button, you can look at all the material from past semesters. This semester will be fairly similar in content to fall 2019. We just tweak some things to make the labs flow better and be more useful to you all. Okay, and now for some of the more logistical side of things. So you all might be wondering how to enroll in this class. And well, congrats, you all satisfied the very first step, which is to show up here. So that is all satisfied. You're good to go on that front. After you show up and come to the info session, then what you want to do is you want to complete Lab 0. So you might have seen some emails from us about that. It's also posted on the website. So it's kind of like an application, but we also added some questions to help you get started to think about some of the things that we'll be doing and to really make sure that what we'll be doing is something that you're interested in. So the question shouldn't be very difficult. You should be able to like really Google all the answers or know where to find them. So yeah, please don't take too long completing Lab 0. It should be a fairly straightforward task. Okay, yeah, all of you all asking questions. I'll get to everyone eventually. It'll probably be answered in the next couple of slides or so. So just hang in for a couple minutes. So yeah, after you complete Lab 0, we'll send enrollment codes. We'll try to get as many people as possible. We've expanded the class from the normal size because of the fact that we don't have the lab space to constrain it. But that being said, though, we do still have limited space. So please, if you're interested in taking the class, please fill out Lab 0, answer all of the questions as completely as you can. And we'll try to email you a code by Monday, hopefully earlier though, but no guarantees on that. And if you don't want units, then don't worry at all. You don't have to fill out Lab 0, but we'll have all of the labs and all of the lecture material posted online. So you can access it even if you're not officially enrolled in the class. All right. Okay, yeah, so some course logistics will be 8 to 9 p.m. This is, if you're doing the beginner track, it'll be on Tuesdays. If you're doing the advanced track, it'll be on Thursdays. We'll actually have pre-recorded lectures. So the lecture video should be about 30 minutes long each, and we'll try to release them a few days before the live session. And what we'll be doing during the live session, we have a couple goals that we want to achieve. First of all, we want you all to interact with the facilitator who gave that lecture so that you can ask them whatever questions you have. We also want to give you a space to meet up with other people taking the course so that you can work on the lab together. And again, it's a perfect place to work on the lab because you got other people, you got the facilitator to answer any of your questions. And we'll also have a couple live lectures. So we'll let you know when those are. When the lecture is live, then they won't be pre-recorded. You will need to attend the live session to watch that lecture. So some of the guest lecturers that we'll bring in are OCF alums. So they're working in the industry and they have some experience and some things that they would like to tell you. So just yeah, it'll be pretty awesome. We want you all to be there for that. Yeah, so since things are online, we usually make it mandatory, but now we won't, just for all the complications and time zone conflicts, but please show up if you can. All right, next slide. So I think, yeah, so this should answer Kong's question about how many hours we should spend each week on this course. So we're expecting that the labs will take about 3 hours per week. Some of them will take less time, some of them will take more time. And if you're super comfortable with material, it'll take you less. If you want to spend more time on it and really dig deeper, then it'll take more. So it's pretty flexible, but in general, 3 hours per week is what we expect from you and what you can expect as well. We do require that you turn in all labs. So we'll have 10 labs throughout the semester. You'll need to finish all of them, but you can complete up to 2 of them late. So if something's going on that week and you're just kind of out of it, you don't want to do the lab, then as long as you turn it in by finals week, you're all good to go. the labs are due 1 week after their corresponding live session. So for example, if for like lab 1 will be released on next week, and then it'll be due the week after. All right. Yeah, so thanks everyone for coming. That's all the stuff that we have. Before you all go though, I do want to let you know about all these links so that you can keep connected with us. If you want to see these slides, then you can go to this link, ocf.io/s/decalinfo, or you can email us from this email, decal@ocf.berkeley.edu, if you have any questions. Again, please complete Lab 0 by Saturday. You can do that at the website. If you want to ask us questions live, then you can join our Slack or Discord. They're both bridged, so regardless of which one you sign up for, they're both going to the same place. And if you want to join the OCF, again, that's not super correlated to taking the decal. So you can really join the OCF right away, even if you haven't already taken it. And just go to this link if you want that. All right. Yeah, so thanks everyone. I'm going to take questions now, and I'm also going to answer Rujia's question here, Jonathan. Okay, so you said that you submitted the lab on Tuesday. No, you do not need to update it. As long as you show up to one of them, you're all good. So yeah.
Yeah, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, or just send it in chat, and we'll answer it.
Yeah, we'll be hanging around for a few more minutes. So let us all know what you have.
Mm-hmm. But remember, the number one thing that you need to actually do is fill out Lab 0. That's your actual application into the course. And now that you know everything, it should be pretty trivial for you to fill out.
I'm wondering, does the decal require using Linux as a primary operating system? Because I'm having some trouble with the sound card, basically.
No, we don't require that. So the decal itself is sponsored by DigitalOcean, and they provide us virtual machines on their hardware. So when you get enrolled, we give every single person that's enrolled a virtual machine.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, Cindy's asking, is this decal offered in the spring? We will definitely try our best to offer it next spring. So if you can't take it this semester, don't worry, you can take it next semester. How late can a lab be submitted? By finals week. So I think the last week of official classes for this decal is the week of December 2nd, or something like that, just the first week of December. So as long as you turn it in by the end of that week, then you should be good for that. But please try to finish the labs on time, just to keep on top of things.
Actually, going back to whether or not the decal will be offered in spring, I know that last year we didn't offer the decal in spring, but it's looking much more likely that we'll be offering this decal again in this next spring. So
Yeah.
don't get too bummed if you don't get another course. You'll have many more opportunities to take it.
Um, yeah, so if you don't get into the decal or you don't want to take it for units, as long as you're a Berkeley student, you can still join the Zoom meetings for the live sessions. We won't be giving any like preferential treatment to people who are enrolled or not. As long as you're there, then we'll help you out the best that we can. And all of the lectures will be accessible online as well. So if you can't make the live session, then that's still fine. You can follow along.
Yeah, so since now we're moving to having pre-recorded lectures, those lectures, including content as well as the labs, will all be online. So even if you weren't able to join the Zoom, you could consume pretty much all the content of the course just looking at the website. But the live sessions themselves are accessible to Berkeley students because they're just Berkeley Zooms. And it's not like the lectures themselves are going to know who's a student or not. So you can go ahead, just jump in, ask questions, and you'll be pretty much treated like any other student.
Yeah. Yep.
Any more questions? You don't really even have to give one right now. As long as you know how to reach out to us, you can message Ben or I anytime. If you hit the email, it's likely going to us anyways.
Mhm.
All right, Ben, it sounds like there isn't really that many other questions. I think we can go ahead and end the meeting now. I don't want to stretch the recording.
All right. Yeah, that's true.
All right. Thanks everybody for coming. Remember, as a final reminder, fill out Lab 0. That's all you have to do by Saturday. Yeah, and we hope to see you guys all in our course.
Yep.
All right, have a good one.
Yeah, see ya.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming.